welcome back to my channel. I'm so excited for today's video because it's something new, it's something different, something that I've never done, and it's time to experiment with, as you've probably seen in the title, scrunchies. Now, scrunchies have never been something that I'm like, ooh, I need to make that. I think I need to cut out fabric specifically for that, but rather I have all of these scraps and I'm like, I might as well use them for something. Like, what can I use all of these scraps for that are just like a long piece of fabric? And so I'm like, you know what? I've always loved a good scrunchie. I prefer scrunchies over hair ties, as you've probably seen in my videos. Like, this scrunchie I wear almost every single video that I make, and it has been worn and beat down, and I'm due for a new one. I think scrunchies just look better in my hair personally. My hair is really thin, so I don't like something really like chunky or like, I think, what were they called? Like bobbles. I think bobbles used to be really popular. They're like kind of a coiled hair tie. So I used to use those a little bit, but I don't really like just like a regular hair tie. I want something a little bit loose, a little bit fun, has some color to it, has some stretch, and is really easy on my hair. So I prefer just like a satin scrunchie like this, but this one I've had to sew up multiple times. As you can tell, there's like all sorts of threads coming off of it, and just, it has been through the ringer for sure. So I'm like, you know what? Why don't I just make scrunchies for my own shop, like out of all my different scraps? So that's what we're gonna be experimenting with today, and hopefully sewing a couple for my market that's coming up in like 4 days. So to be completely honest, I already bought everything that I need for these scrunchies, and I already made one. So this is the one that I made. It has little cherries with some pink fabric, and this fabric I'm really running out of. So I thought maybe with everything left over, I could just make these little scrunchies out of it. But I love how it turned out. Apart from this seam on the front is really, really choppy. Like, I don't know if you can see there, I didn't do a clean edge. It's kind of like a raw fraying edge. And I just want to figure out how to do this a lot better. And I also want to figure out how to add labels to these, because I'm going to have to figure out a new label for some of these, since I'm gonna have to like fold it on itself and then sew it in. I don't really want to sew a label onto these. So we've got a lot to experiment with, and I've already made one, so I kind of understand how the whole process works. And let me show you it in. It's so cute. And like right after I made this one, I'm like, shoot, if I just need a hair tie around the office, I'll just make myself a scrunchie, because I hate like leaving the room to go get a different hair tie, and I never have hair ties in here. All right, so this is how it looks from the back when it's actually in the hair. Super cute. I've taken like multiple pictures of it, of like on my wrist, and I added it to my Instagram stories. You guys were like, oh my gosh, I love it. So I'm always glad to hear that before I even make something and add it to the shop, and it just kind of like reassures what I'm thinking is gonna work for a new product. So let's go ahead and get out some fabric, cut off a couple slices, and just experiment with different methods, because I was looking on TikTok for like all sorts of different tutorials and methods, and there's like a million ways to do a scrunchie. So I just want something that is not so obvious of where you turned it inside out. So I'm thinking we're gonna have to do something more of like where you flip it around through the edge of the scrunchie. Or I mean, this one even has that edge on the middle of the scrunchie, but this one is more like they finished off that edge. So before you even like flip it, you have to do a clean it. I don't know. Needless to say, we're gonna be experimenting with not only how to make the scrunchie, we're gonna be experimenting with labels, we're gonna be experimenting with different sizes. That's a huge thing, is like different lengths of how to cut your fabric, because every single person that I see, they cut it different, they make different sizes, and I just don't know what I like. So this one I had written down in our planner here how I made it, so I'm gonna go ahead and reference that for a little of our starter projects, but going forward we'll have to figure out like a precise measurement that I like. I forgot to even mention, I did make another one. I made a jumbo, so this is how it turned out, and I made it out of the ditzy pink fabric. So this one, I mean, is adorable. If I want to do jumbo scrunchies, sorry there's like so many threads on here, but if I want to do jumbo scrunchies, this is kind of how they would turn out. And on the wrist, they're just so cute. Truly a jumbo scrunchie, like huge. And this would even be cute around, like if you did a bun with a hair tie and then you put this around it, that'd be so cute. Anyways, let's grab some fabric and start experimenting. All right, so here is just one of my scrap bins. This thing is completely full, and I try and keep it nice and organized so that I can fit everything in it. But I'm thinking we can go through this scrap bin and try and find some fabric that is the right length that I need, or like approximately the right length, so that I don't have to cut off so much fabric off of my bolts. So, okay, so like here's a good one. So this piece, let's just take this one out and experiment with this first. So I'm just gonna set it down here. Let's see how long this is. 17, okay, that's actually not enough. I don't really think any of these will be enough now that I think about it. So let's just get a bolt. All right, let's start with this vintage blue. I'm gonna go ahead and cut off a couple different sizes for us to see how we like the size to be. So from everything that I've seen, a lot of people use just about 20 to 24, sometimes like 26 inches for the length that you're gonna be doing. So this is probably what, like a 40-inch width, 42-inch width bolt. So we're just gonna have a couple different tests. So let's do test number 1. I'll have it just be like the smallest size that we would go. And then as far as the elastic, people also did different sizes of elastic based on how dense your hair is, like how tight you want it to be on your wrist or on your hair. But that really varied as far as the elastic. So I'm just gonna play around with that too. And then on my test here, I'm gonna write down which fabric we're using for which test, so that we'll know which scrunchie is which test, if that makes sense. Okay, so let me cut out this first one. And I'm hoping that all of these at least turn out to be some sort of a good scrunchie that I can still use. Even if I don't like particularly like the size, I feel like most of them will still turn out to be a good scrunchie. You know what I mean? It's like, it's a scrunchie. You can't really mess it up. You can't really not be able to use it. Unless obviously it's like not sewn right, or like you can't even, I don't know. I did have some issues with like the very first one that I made, and I don't know what happened, but I tried to turn it inside out and it was like sewn on itself. I don't know, it was a whole mess. All right, test number 2, I'm gonna go up in size just a little bit. Oh, I didn't even cut this one, okay. We'll do that in just a second. So our test 2 will be made out of this cherry fabric. I honestly think this cherry fabric will be really cute as a scrunchie. That's why I picked it. And now that I think about it, I'm probably gonna have to unfold this. See, and this is kind of why I want it to be scrap pieces, is because like 22 inches doesn't really work out for a bolt of fabric because you're kind of limited by your width of the fabric on the bolt, so it just doesn't really cut nice, and then you have a whole lot of scraps from what you cut out. I guess how large is this? I guess, yeah, that would work. I guess you could do like a 21-inch scrunchie now that I think about it, but the whole point of this is to experiment and figure out what I like. Let me cut our vintage blue as well. And the other nice part about this was they don't take very long. Like from what I've seen from almost every single video, it was like 10 minutes. Like you could easily sew a whole bunch of these for a market the day before and have them all ready for everybody. And it's not like you're bending over backwards to make 10 scrunchies. Like they're super easy to make. So there's our first 2 tests. Let's cut some more. Our test 3, I'm gonna go up in size just a little bit again. And of course, we're gonna have a colorful picnic scrunchie, because that would be adorable. And I feel like I'm gonna do a, okay, what was my measurement? I'm like forgetting what I'm supposed to be doing here. This one we're gonna go a little bit larger. And I feel like if I do end up finding sizes that I really like, I will end up making those, like all the different sizes in all of my different fabrics. So it's kind of like if you get like a makeup bag, you could get a matching scrunchie with it. And if you got like a laptop sleeve or a keychain wallet or like any of my products, you could also get a matching scrunchie with it, which I think would be really unique for my shop. Since I already have a lot of things that match each other, I'm like, why not have a matching scrunchie be available for people? Okay, there's our 3rd test. Our 4th test, we're gonna do, actually, I'm gonna write that down, colorful picnic. Okay, test number 4, we're gonna go ahead and do, let's do it even longer, but I'm gonna match the same width as one of our first tests. So some people were going up to like 27 inches. Let's try that, because that's gonna make more of a fold. So like on here, this one, sorry, you can't even see, let me turn some light on. Okay, that did not help. But on this one, you have like some folds around the scrunchie, and that's what really makes a scrunchie, is it like folded up like this. It's not exactly perfect and kind of has like some ripples through it. So making the scrunchie even longer is gonna create even more ripples when it is in the final product. So trying a 27-inch, I don't think is gonna hurt. It's not gonna make the scrunchie any different. And if anything, it's just gonna make it more rippled, like have more texture to it, make it look more fun, more like a scrunchie, if that makes sense. So let's grab another fabric. All right, this one I already know is just gonna be adorable. I'm gonna do this bright floral, and I'm gonna go ahead and do a a decently sized width so that we don't have so much scrunch and not enough width for it to be like usable, you know what I mean? But I kind of want it to be a jumbo scrunchie, so we're gonna go a little bit bigger. And then this one, going off of my first test that I have written down here for how I made this one, I feel like this elastic is a little bit too tight for a jumbo scrunchie, so I'm gonna increase that a little bit. This is so much fun. I don't think I've ever really experimented like this with product, but it's fun to be able to have something to like reference and then get all different sizes. Like when I do makeup bags, I usually did one, and then I could kind of figure out from there like what measurements I needed to add some inches to or take off some inches. But then this, it's like you could have multiple different sizes of scrunchies and sell all of them if they all end up working out. But yeah, I feel like I just never get to experiment like this. But I can already tell that this one is just gonna be one of my favorites. I don't know if you really got to see the pattern, but this is what the pattern looks like on the fabric. It's got little blue bows. It's got some bright florals, and I also have this in makeup bag, pencil case, keychain wallet, and wristlet right now. Okay, I feel like 4 tests is good. I feel like between those, we'll figure out which one we really like. So now it's time to cut our elastic, which I did get some elastic here. This is what I used for this scrunchie and the one that's in my hair right now. So this elastic, I believe it is 1/4 of an inch wide, and as you can tell, it is very, very stretchy. I almost just said scrunchy, but it's very stretchy, and I got a whole ton of it so we can really play around here. But I have seen some tutorials where people actually used old hair ties that they had, or like not old, but if you're making one for yourself, you can use old ones. But you could just buy like a pack of hair ties, and I'm like, that's really genius, but then you gotta like sew around the hair tie, and I don't know how to do that, so that's kind of off the table. But this elastic, I'm just gonna cut right in my board here, and I'm just gonna follow what I wrote down on my notes. And this elastic, not every single one is the same size, so I'm kind of experimenting with this and the fabric and the method of how we're gonna sew the scrunchies. I told you guys, we're really doing a lot here. We're kind of changing every single variable, which I think I've said before, it's like not a good idea, but in this case, maybe we'll find the perfect fit the very first try throughout one of these tests. So we got all of our elastic here, we got all of our scrunchie material. So now the next step is writing down the different ways that I'm gonna sew the scrunchies. So there was the method that I used for our very first, well, this was actually a second one that I made, but this Ditzy Picnic Pink one. There was a method that I used for this cherry one, and then there was also another method called the burrito method. If you know, you know. If not, look it up, but it's a little bit confusing. So I think we'll do that for maybe one of these large ones. So I think bright floral will do the burrito method. And then these other ones will do, I don't know, it's just hard because any of the scrunchies that I do, you need like a lot of material in order to like turn it inside out or be able to fit the elastic through. Like there's all different things where making a really tiny scrunchie is gonna be hard. So my tiniest one, we're definitely not doing the burrito method, I can tell you that. Because you need like a lot of fabric to be able to pull through the fabric while you're sewing. Because that's the whole idea of the burrito method. It looks like a big burrito by the end of it. But our first 3 tests, like our smaller ones, I think I'm just gonna do, okay, test 1, we're gonna do the same as this pink cherry one that I have in my hair, because I really wanna nail that so that we don't have like a raw edge. And I know that we can figure out how to not get a raw edge by sewing it a different way, like the very first sewing stitch. So that one, I think I'll be able to improve. And then, sorry, none of this probably makes any sense, but I'll show you once we're on the machine. Then our test 2 and test 3, I'm gonna do the same way that we did for this Ditzy Picnic Pink, which is just leaving an opening on the edge. So as you can see here, we have a little sewn edge right here. I don't know if you can see that, but I think this way is gonna end up being the best way, since right here we actually have that edge that we had on our pink cherry, but it's completely finished because that part you do at the very beginning. So anyways, we'll be playing around with the best methods, and not only for how it looks, but like ease, you know, make sure it's quick, make sure that I could bulk prep it and like not rip out my hair while doing it. Like I want it to be nice and easy so that I don't dread making scrunchies, because that's the last thing that you want to do is like make a product that you dread that is all of a sudden a bestseller. So test 2 and test 3 will make the same as that Ditzy Picnic Pink. All right, well then I guess we're off to sewing. This was pretty quick to cut out all that fabric. All right, our very first test that we're gonna do, I'm gonna experiment with this vintage blue one, which we were gonna do the same way as this pink cherry one. First thing that I'm gonna do is fold over the end so that we catch that and don't have a raw edge anymore. And I'm just gonna pin that. And like honestly, I don't really know what I'm doing. I'm just gonna kind of figure this out as we go. This would probably be easier if I ironed this, but like I said, I don't really know what I'm doing, and this is just a test. So we're just gonna play it by ear and figure it out the hard way. Honestly, can I just say I'm so excited to have like a scrunchie of my own, because then I can throw away my old beat up ones. I guess I could fix them up, but you know what I mean. All right, now I'm just gonna go all the way down, back stitching, good sides together. You know the drill. And this I'm just doing about 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. It doesn't really matter necessarily, but I want more of the fabric to be on the outside than the inside of the scrunchie. Okay, now we can go ahead and flip it, which I got a tool. Where is that tool? Here it is. So I got this little tool. Here's how it looks. It looks kind of scary, but this is like tongs in the kitchen almost. So if you move this all the way down, they're gonna open up, and then as you move this towards the end, it will completely clamp shut. So the whole idea of this is that you leave it open, and I'm gonna go through the end that I don't have, or I have the raw edge, and I'm just gonna go all the way down. And this kind of prevents you from having to use a safety pin, and I'll have this tool linked in my Amazon storefront if you're interested, but I'm sure that they make other tools, all sorts of things. You know, Amazon is always having cool stuff on there, so they probably got something. So then I'm just gonna clamp it on that fabric, and then I can pull it right through, maybe. Okay, come on. See, now this is why I didn't really want to make like tiny scrunchies, because this is what you end up with. But come on, there we go. So then that just prevents you from having to use a safety pin. And there we go. Now we got our good scrunchie, or our turned right side out scrunchie, I guess. Or I guess just a long tube at this point. And then you can iron this out, but I'm just gonna kind of like flatten it. And we're gonna take our elastic. Let me see which one we need. And I can also use that same tool. I'm just gonna clamp it onto the end of that elastic, and holding on to the other end, I'm just gonna feed it right through. It is so nice though that every single part of these scrunchies is gonna be fully customizable. Like if I wanted to do a customized scrunchie, I could, like a customized listing. I just don't really think I will, because I really wanna bulk prep these. And now once I have this elastic, oh no, I just let go of it. Okay, there we go. So some people tie this, and some people sew it with a zigzag stitch. And then some people go back and forth with a straight stitch. So I guess, you know what, since we're changing every single variable of every single scrunchie, let's try it different. This one I'm gonna tie off. I'm just gonna do a double knot, you know, pretty basic. Because some people say that this is just way easier than trying to sew it, which I believe it, because my last ones were a total pain trying to sew them because the elastic tries to slip out. But honestly, tying this is kind of hard too. And then the other thing with this is now my elastic is, like I have so much extra there because I didn't tie it exactly towards the end. So now I should probably clip off all of that. See, now I'm learning. This is the things that I need to learn, because if I didn't do this, then I would never know whether it's good or not. So I'm just gonna clip these ends, and then the whole idea of doing that folded end is so that we have this very clean end. So we have a clean one, and then we have a raw one. The clean one's over here, and I'm gonna put the raw edge into the clean edge, maybe. People made this look so easy. Okay, so just like that, I put it inside of that other end all the way around. And now I'm just gonna go with a straight stitch right across there. I mean, it looks good. It's just the only thing that I really don't like about this is once I kind of stretch this all out, you know, make it look like an actual scrunchie, there is one part of this scrunchie that like really stands out, and the part of it that really stands out is where I put that straight stitch, because it's completely extending the scrunchie and it doesn't really like fold, unless maybe eventually as people use it, it will kind of fold down, but it is so prominent, I guess. Like if I were to take a listing picture, all that you'd see is that seam. And even if I kind of, you know, mess it up and kind of make it scrunch a little bit how it's supposed to, it still is just very prominent. That's the only word that I can think of. And maybe it's because I sewed it. It's a bit like when you cook a recipe and you're like, there's so much garlic in there, but you knew that you dumped the garlic in there. I think that's kind of how I'm feeling about this scrunchie. So I don't think I really like that method. I think I'd prefer a side stitch. And I also don't like the knot because this thing is tiny. I mean, it's like gonna hurt my wrist in 30 minutes. So it already hurts my wrist. It's really tiny. Unless I extend the elastic that I cut by like an inch, and then I can kind of account for that tied knot. It's just then every single elastic is not gonna be the same size, so then every scrunchie will be a different size by like half an inch or an inch or so. But as far as time, that was really quick. That was easy. I love, like, it's honestly hard for me to hate this because I love the fabric so much. I think this looks so darling and just adorable. The vintage blue is adorable in a little scrunchie. I love it. Let's try it on. And I know I need to clip all the little threads off this thing, but I'm too excited. Let's just do a little bun. Oh my gosh, I actually can't do a bun. It's too tight. So we're just gonna do a hair tie. All right, so this is our test number 1. This is the vintage blue. Honestly, how does it look? I haven't been able to see it yet, but I'm gonna watch this back. Okay, first thought is, that's adorable. I just took a little picture of it and I'm looking at it. That is adorable. Honestly, my hair, I think of it as really thin because I think the actual strand hairs are really thin, but I do have a bigger ponytail, so maybe this size would actually work for people who have like a really tiny ponytail. Or even like for little girls, if they don't have like a huge ponytail, then this size would work for them. It's just gonna be hard because I feel like going down the road, I'm gonna be like, oh, I like this one, and I like this one, and I like that one, so I'm gonna have 4 different scrunchie sizes by the end of this. But as far as the knot, I don't know. I don't think it would come undone, would it? That's the one thing that I'm scared of, is the knot eventually coming undone. But the more that you stretch this, the more that it's gonna reinforce that knot, you know, because you're like tightening it every single time that you do this. You're like tightening the knot. So I guess pros, it was quick, but like all the other ones are gonna be quick. It's pretty. All the other ones are also gonna be pretty. Sorry, all these strings. What's another pro? The knot was a lot easier than sewing it, I can tell you that, because this one that I have, I sewed, which by the way, this one's looking like a little gnarly. Are they all gonna look like this, like eventually stretched out? Because if they do, then I want it to be a smaller one. Guys, help. I don't know. All right, let's move on to our second experiment. So our second one's gonna be these cherries, and we're gonna do this one a different way than how we just sewed that last one. So for this one, we're gonna end up having that side seam. So I'm still gonna fold it in half, but instead of sewing across the entire scrunchie like we did for that last one, we're gonna have a side seam on this one. So it's gonna be like the Ditzy Picnic Pink that I preferred, which I think I'll probably end up doing for all of them. I just feel like that's gonna be my preferred method. Wow, my machine is pretty dirty. And this one I'm gonna leave a pretty big gap, and then just flip it right side out. I guess, what am I doing? I should use my tool. I do get a bit scared that this tool is gonna rip the fabric, but that hasn't happened yet. Out of the 1 scrunchie that I made, or 2. All right, this is the satisfying part though, maybe. Okay, hang on. Oh no, maybe, come on. There we go. That was nice. Okay, then elastic, which this elastic's gonna be the same size as our vintage blue one, except this one I'm gonna sew. Oh wait, actually I need a, oh, I shouldn't have turned it all the way. Okay, yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I was only supposed to turn it half. I kind of forgot about that. Okay, what am I doing? This is why we have tests. I'm gonna go back in with our tool. I'm gonna flip this inside out again. And then we only need to flip this halfway because we need to sew the edge. I guess I'm getting good practice at turning these inside out and right side out. This is just, it feels so wrong. Okay, so now this is what we did have. I just need to turn it halfway. All right, now that I kind of got it halfway, I'm gonna undo this and then just fix it. You know what, this method might kind of be harder than I expected. Plus, now we gotta sew along this tiny little rim. All right, let's see how this goes. Okay, not terrible. And then I gotta flip it right side out through this hole. Okay, wait, I think this is where I got stuck the very first time that I made these. Oh, okay, that was easy. Now I'm gonna put the elastic through this hole, so we got a scrunchie. You know what, this way wasn't so bad. I just feel like that turning halfway inside out is gonna be my main struggle, you know? But here we've got our elastic. This one I'm gonna sew. Yeah. Or should we try tying it again? I just feel like tying is way easier because otherwise you gotta put these elastic on top of each other and then sew it, and like I should do a zigzag stitch so that it doesn't come undone. You know what, we could try sewing this one. Just like a couple times, okay? And then put that back in the scrunchie. And then this one, as you can tell, we're gonna sew along the side since that's where our hole is. And this I'm gonna pin. I don't really trust just doing it blindly. Usually I feel like sewing the holes I don't need to pin, but something like this I get a little nervous about. All right, and then there is our nicely sewn edge. So now this, here's the issue. Does this like fold nice so that it still looks like a scrunchie? All right, first thoughts, this elastic is way too big for this size of scrunchie. That's my first thought, but let's go ahead and try it on. I think this one I should be able to get a bun. Let me show you guys. So for my buns, I literally just take it and I like twist, pull it through, grab it, twist this extra, put it on top, and then pull the rest of it through. That makes sense? And then I kind of like, you know, pull it, fix it a little bit. But how's it look? How's the little cherries look? Let me bring it in closer. So this is our test number 2. This one was with the sewn elastic, and this one was sewn on the side of the scrunchie. Let me take a picture so that we can talk about it. Can't really see the scrunchie. Let me do a hair tie, or a ponytail, I mean. It is a bit big for my personal ponytail, so it feels like it's gonna fall out in like 30 minutes if I'm doing something really crazy, but I don't know, I feel like a scrunchie is more visible on just like a wrist rather than a ponytail, but let me see. That's so cute. Aww. Compared to the vintage blue, it's definitely a little bit bigger, which I like. I actually like the size of this one, so we went up by 0.5 inches. Oh wait, 2 inches. Wait, hang on. We went up by 2 inches in length and 0.5 inches by width, which width is really what's given us that bigger look, which I love. I mean, this is just gorgeous. Okay, I really like it. Let me see how it is on the wrist. I think our elastic just needs to go down by a little bit, but how cute is that? I love it. This is just adorable. But I feel like some people don't want a scrunchie so big as this, whereas like our vintage blue, let me show you the size difference so far. So just a little bit bigger than the vintage blue, but like maybe I should just offer both sizes, and it could also be the difference between our elastic. Since it's funny, these elastic are cut the exact same size, but because we did the knot in the vintage blue, it is so much tighter versus like the cherry one, I can easily go like this. The vintage blue is like, I gotta pull on that one to get the same amount of stretch. Whereas the cherry, I like the stretch. It just feels a little bit loose. So maybe we could go down by like 0.5 inches in the elastic if we're gonna be sewing it. Whereas if we do the knot, we could go up by 0.5 inches. But from like a business standpoint, I don't wanna be wasting elastic and just like cutting it off. So I think sewing might be the way to go, but how cute. Our very first 2 scrunchies. See, okay, wait, can you see the size of this hole versus this hole? I mean, if that doesn't show the difference between the knot and the tying, these are the exact same cut size elastic. So I'm really glad that I did these tests. But as far as the sewn edge, it looks so good compared to this one. This one I don't know, I don't think I'm really a big fan of it. There it is. I don't think I'm really a big fan of how this edge looks versus how this edge looks. It's just my personal preference, but maybe you guys have different thoughts. Maybe one like lasts longer. I don't know, this one just looks more not clean. This one's more clean. Like there is no, I don't know. I don't know, I love this one. This one's so cute. I think the cherry one is my favorite so far. Not just how I made it, but like the design. Like, how cute. Okay, let's keep on going. I'm getting distracted. Our next one is gonna be Colorful Picnic. And I'm gonna do it the exact same way that we just did that cherry one, but this one is cut a little bit different. And I'm also gonna change the size of our elastic. We're gonna go down by 0.5 inches, which I actually had written down here. So that's good that we're also changing the elastic, because I think we need to change that if we're gonna sew it. So let me make this one really quick. All right, experiment number 3. I think I'm just obsessed with this one because I love the fabric and how different it is throughout the whole scrunchie, but how incredibly adorable. And like the fact that it's even bigger than the last one. Here's our cherry one in comparison to the size. And I also love the size. So if I put it on my wrist, it's gonna stay on there, but it's not like squeezing my wrist, you know what I mean? So let's try it in the hair really quick. This one, I think I could get a bun. So let's try that. Or actually, let's just do a ponytail since that is what we're able to see the scrunchie best with. Okay, hopefully it looks nice and, you know, fluffy. But here is our test number 3. How does it look? I just watched that back and I think we need to do a bun. I don't know why, but I think this one just calls for a bun. So let me try a bun. Plus the ponytail was like really low. I don't know, it just looked a little bit weird. Okay, so like first off, you know how you can tell with like a hair tie, you're like, oh, it's gonna stay all day, or oh, it's kind of loose, I don't think it's gonna stay very well. Like this, I would easily be able to work out in and feel okay. So this is how it looks with the bun. Super cute. Let me take a picture so that we can talk. Yeah. Oh my gosh. And the fact that you can't see all of it when I do the bun, it's like you see little parts here and there and it's like kind of colorful and you just see different colors throughout the whole bun. Yeah, I love that. I think this one will be a top seller. And I love the size, like it is an actual scrunchie. Like it's huge. It's not just a regular hair tie. When you take it out, you can kind of like fluff it back out and make it look all nice. And then wear it on your wrist again. I mean, how stinking cute is that? I love it. I also do think though that we need to make one a little bit smaller to be more like this size, so that somebody that doesn't want something this big, you know, I mean, you can clearly see the size difference. It's just the difference in the width that I cut the fabric at. So we could have this width and then we could also have this width, and this could be like a, is this considered like jumbo? Or like a large scrunchie maybe, but we still have another test and this one is even wider than this one. So let's go ahead and sew together our bright floral. All right, now for our very last one, I'm gonna use the burrito method, which if you haven't heard, it's apparently the way that a lot of people do it. All right, let's see if I can remember how people did this just from memory. Oh, okay. I like couldn't understand what people were doing when they were doing this, but now I kind of understand. And now I get why people are like, make sure you don't sew over your fabric, because yeah, this is gonna be difficult. It's like you're flipping it, well, no, you're not flipping it right side out. What am I saying? And I'm assuming I have to leave a hole, right? Somewhere. I just can't, I don't know where the end is. Oh, there it is, okay. So now we got the end. I'm just gonna back stitch that, and then I assume we pull this right side out. Again, I don't really know what I'm doing here, but this is kind of like what we just did, except maybe easier, because yeah, look at how easy that was. Because then we don't have to do the whole like pull it halfway out and then, you know, deal with all that. Because look, then we just got this. And let's see how long our elastic was. Not very long. I don't think it's long enough. So I'm actually gonna cut a new piece. I'm gonna do the same length that we did as our last one, just because I really like that length. And I think this one's gonna be so adorable. And I also found out it's way easier to put this end in instead of your other end into the scrunchie first. I don't know why I didn't figure that out to start. And now I lost the hole. Where's the hole? There it is. So I just kind of hold on to this one end of the elastic and then I feed the other end through. Okay, this one, once again, I'm gonna sew this one because I think we learned from the beginning, I don't really like the knot. I don't think it's the best way to do it. So, especially because we have the shorter elastic with this one. So I'm just gonna sew this one. Okay, that did not work. Let me try that again. All right, there we go. Now I just gotta sew the hole, which we've done this like 3 times now. I think I'm kind of getting the hang of it. Oh my gosh. Oh, we got some random, oh, there we go. How stinking cute. Look at how adorable this one is. Oh my gosh. I think we gotta try it in the hair now. This one's definitely a little bit larger, but we'll make do. Let's do a bun for this one. Oh my gosh, it's almost like too big. Like, it's a little bit hard to work with. All right, here is how it looks. What do you think? Let me take a photo. I need to see this one. Okay, you can't even see it. What in the world? Let me try a different style of bun. Let's do the one where you like twist it around and around, you know, this good old twist. And then let me just put it on the outside and just kind of fluff it out. Okay, now how does this look? Is that a little bit better? Let me see here. Oh my gosh. Okay, that is adorable. I love that. Can you see the whole thing? Adorable. Let's try a ponytail. Okay, so here's a ponytail. Hopefully it's all neat and everything, but You probably see it way better in the ponytail than you do with a bun. I've got to see this one too. Oh my gosh, it's so cute. Yeah, I think this one might, I don't know, the colorful picnic is also really, and the cherry and the vintage blue. Honestly, I love all of them. I think the easiest one to do was either the burrito method or test 2 and test 3, which was where we like sewed almost all the way and then flip it halfway and sew the rim and whatever. Maybe the burrito method actually. Except I think that would be really hard for tiny scrunchies, kind of like this one, which is a lot of what I want to sell is these little tiny ones where they're not like so large like this one. But now we need to experiment with somehow fitting a label onto these. And if I'm not able to get a label, I don't know what to do. I guess like, I don't really know if I want to label these honestly, because then that's like a label in your hair, and then what if it like, I don't know, what if it gets like caught or like it's in the way? All right, I have been sat here for a long time trying to decide which ones are my favorite and which ones I want to go forward with for the designs on my shop. And I have come to the conclusion that these 3 are my favorite sizes out of all of them that I made. So first off, we have vintage blue. This was the very first one that I did, and this one is just a little bit tinier, and this hole is going to be a little bit larger since this one we tied the knot, remember? We cut off the extra, so it will be about 1/2 inch larger than this for the center. But overall, like the size of the actual fabric, the scrunchie itself is a little bit smaller than say like this one. So it's gonna be a little bit smaller, less fabric, so it'll be more affordable. It'll just be an easier option for someone who doesn't want something so large, such as this one. So then in between these 2, we're gonna have the colorful picnic. So this one is gonna come in, they're all gonna come in all different fabrics, but I'm just saying colorful picnic because this was the specific fabric that we used for this test. So this one is just a little bit larger than this one. And I actually feel like I might decrease the amount of fabric by like 1/2 inch so that it's more in between all of these, because this one's so tiny compared to like both of these 2. Like these 2 are very close to each other, and then this one is just kind of very tiny when I put them all together. So I think I'm going to shrink this by about 1/2 inch, but keep the elastic the same. And then this one I think is just perfect for a jumbo scrunchie. It is adorable. It'd be so cute around like a bun, like a ballet bun. Ugh, I just love it. I think it's so fun, and I love the amount of scrunch that it has to fabric ratio, because then it looks very scrunchy, which is the whole point. But like, this one is probably one of my favorites. So my next step in this whole process is to figure out how to make the label. I have honestly been putting this off because I don't know how. I think I'm gonna do it the same as the labels that I already make. So the same font, the same way, like the same way that I make them, I'm also gonna make the labels on here. But the only thing that's gonna change is that they're gonna be like a little fold instead of sewn onto the fabric. So it'll be like a little, not like a bubble, but you guys know like how clothing, there's like a little loop almost that says something on one side. So I think I'm gonna experiment with that, see if it works. So first thing is designing. And the first step of that is opening up Canva. So this is the original XOXO Charlie label that I did. So I tried a couple different things. I tried first just putting XOXO Charlie, which is what I ended up doing for my actual labels. And then I also tried stacking it on top of itself. And when I printed this, they were just so tiny you couldn't really tell what it said. And then I also tried putting them next to each other so I could get 2. That didn't work so well either. And then this one is the one-of-a-kind label that I did for some of my tote bags and some of the tote bags that I still make to this day. I just used to put a one-of-a-kind label on them, so that's why I have this here. So I'm gonna use this exact same layout, the same size, everything about it. Well, actually maybe not the same size, but I want basically this square to be double the size. So I'm gonna go ahead and resize this and copy it into a size just double. Okay, so now here's our new one. So then this is now just in the middle of it, but it used to be up here, if that makes sense. And now this is what I would be printing, is this whole thing. So then this would be our dotted line where we fold it right in the middle here, which I might put, actually, now that I'm thinking about it, so this top part and this bottom part are gonna be what's inside the scrunchie. And so I almost think I'm gonna need it like this. Yep, So then this top part folds down, meets the back of this side, and then it's readable. Like, does that make sense? Anyways, I'll show you once we actually get there, but this is what I'm going for. And if I don't want this font, I almost want like a different font so that we'll be able to read it and we can still have a really tiny label. So I was thinking we could do something just a little bit different. Even like this could be nice, just something a little bit bold and like large, but still matches my theme. I swear, there's so many fonts in Canva, it's like hard to pick. Oh, that one's so cute. Maybe if I can make this larger. Yeah, I don't know how I feel about that one. And I want a font that takes up the entire width of this whole label, but doesn't go any higher than this middle part. So that's also what I'm kind of looking for. Like something like this. I don't like this font, but something that goes all the way to the edge and we're able to fold still at this middle seam here. This is almost nice. It's like very plain, but I feel like that would be perfect, you know, because it would be small enough on this scrunchie that it wouldn't be so obvious that you have a label on there. And the label would be on white fabric, so it would match all of the different scrunchies. And it's just like plain, it's simple, it's to the point. And we could try printing this one and this one. We could do both, honestly. Let me duplicate this and then we'll put this in the same font as this one. So we could try printing out both of these. And you know what? Just to be safe, I'm gonna add a little shape to this and find out where our center is. And then I'm gonna put this in the center of that square, just to make sure that we have the right spacing on here. There. So then both of those should be exactly in the center when we fold that. So let's go ahead and print out both of these. Let's see which one we like more. This is what we got because I printed it twice, mainly because, so it started out as this, and these two I just thought were way too skinny and like you wouldn't be able to read them once I ironed them onto the fabric. So I printed it again and I added a third one. I just made the font on this one bold, and this is how it turned out. So I think I'm gonna end up using this one. And I also made the label way, way skinnier than how I designed it in Canva. So usually I upload them into Word and then I kind of edit the size and how I want the border to be and everything. So I'm feeling pretty confident about this, but let's see how it turns out once we actually cut it out of here and iron it onto some fabric. I've also explained this paper a lot before, but this is just a transfer paper and I use it for all of my labels. I do what I just showed you. I design it in Canva, upload it into Word, print it out, and then on the back of this, you peel off this paper, maybe. Okay, there we go. So you peel off this paper, and just like that, you have a little transfer sheet that you put onto your fabric, and you print it right side. So some transfer papers, you're gonna like print it backwards and then lay the good side on your fabric. Well, this one, you lay like the bad side that you just peeled off on the fabric. So you want to print it the way that you want it to go. So does that make any sense? Like, print it the way that you read it instead of printing it backwards like some transfer papers. So this is what we're left with, and now you just take this whole thing, you put it on the fabric, and I'm actually gonna cut off some of this excess, otherwise you won't be able to use that fabric because it'll have that empty transfer paper on there. And I do the little borders on there so that I know where I'm supposed to be cutting when I make those labels and like when they're actually on the fabric. So you don't have to do that if like you're cutting it out with a Cricut or something, but for me personally, I just cut it out with scissors, so I like to do that. So I'm gonna put this onto our fabric and see how they turn out. And for me personally, I just use a plain white cotton fabric. As you can tell, it's a little bit see-through, but that's not gonna matter once we put this on. So then you're just gonna lay that on there, and they provide this transfer paper for you in the little bag. So you lay that over it and you just iron away. I've also used this for adding like monograms and things to people's custom bags. So that's also an option for something like this if you want to do that before you even sew the whole product. But otherwise, I just use these for labels. I'm sure people use them for like t-shirts and graphics and all sorts of things like that. But this has just been what I used from the very beginning for making my labels. And you just want to make sure to get it really nice and hot and make sure that it's on there. I always let it cool for just a little bit before I try to take it off. And I try to take it off to see if it's actually on there. But so far, that label looks so good. Oh, I'm excited. Oh, wait. I did not think about the fact that there's no margin for me to sew on. Yeah, that's probably an issue. Okay. Oh my gosh, why did I not think of that? You know what? This is why we do experiments, right? Okay, that was harder than I thought it'd be, but it wouldn't take the paper after I cut it. So I had to make a whole new sheet, and I figure while I'm doing the whole sheet, I don't want to waste another paper by it not being able to feed again. So I printed out the whole thing, and I actually increased the size again, just the top and the bottom margin, so that we have somewhere to sew. And I just did, I think like 0.5 inch margin or like 0.25 inch margin. We'll kind of figure out once we get these onto some fabric how they look. And then I also only did lines in between to figure out where I need to cut, because in the middle, that's kind of self-explanatory. And then I get more labels per sheet. Anyways, it's just easier, needless to say. So let's get this onto some fabric. All right, now hopefully these will turn out good. I'm just gonna grab my rotary cutter and I'm just gonna cut off the excess around these labels. Actually, let's just cut one strip so that we can actually see if it works for these labels. So here's our one little bitty label, and it doesn't really matter that there's those little black dots on it, because we'll be folding this over and those black dots will be meeting each other and then end up looking like this as the label. And I'm just gonna cut us another piece of fabric so that we can make a scrunchie. Let's do this little pink peony fabric. And I'm gonna reference our sizes again because I kind of forgot what we decided on. Let's do the middle size. So the same as the colorful picnic one. And I know I said we're gonna be making these out of scraps, and we will eventually, but until I get the whole process down, I'm just gonna use fabrics from my bolts for now. And I'm gonna get us another piece of elastic here because I didn't cut out very many. I only did what we needed for our experiments. So now I'm gonna sew this the burrito method all the way until we need to add our little label, which I have right here. I just had a realization. I could add the label now. Yeah, I could actually just add the label right now. It would just have to be inserted into the side where I'm gonna start sewing. And if this doesn't work, I'm gonna cry, but we're gonna see. Look at how cute that is. Little XOXO Charlie label. Now let me just sew up the, well, actually we need to add the elastic first, and then we need to sew up this hole. I can't believe that that worked. I feel like I had like a moment there. I was like, wait, I can just add the label now. And then it won't be so obvious where the actual hole of the scrunchie is. So I feel like the label kind of takes you away from it. And I could add the label a little bit down the road while I'm sewing the burrito method, or like sewing the scrunchie with the burrito method. So that could work out perfect. I love how, I don't want to like, you know, say anything too soon, but I love how tiny the little label looks. And I like that I went with a font that's like actually readable instead of the cursive that I use on my current products. So I feel like sometimes you can't read it, or like people at markets will be like, what does that say? Like, what's your brand? All right, now tell me that that is not the cutest scrunchie in the whole world. And it's got the little label on the end that says XOXO Charlie. So adorable, and the perfect size, the perfect amount of fabric. I did decrease the width of the fabric by just a little bit, and I love it. I think it looks great. And it truly looks like a bunched up little scrunchie. It's adorable. And for the hole, I did use a tiny stitch length, so I did 2 instead of like 3.5 or 2.5. And I think that really helps to hide the hole and like the stitch that you did there. So I'll probably do that going forward, and I'll also move the label away from the hole. But the label looks so cute. I love how it turned out. That's adorable. And now that I actually made this, I think I'm gonna fold this tab in just a little bit more so that just the XOXO Charlie is sticking out, because right now it is pretty prominent on there, and I feel like we could just put it into the scrunchie just a little bit more. So I'm gonna go ahead and experiment with all my different fabrics, make tons of different scrunchies, and I'm gonna try and make one of each size so that they can be on the website very soon for you guys. I've now officially finished all of the scrunchies that I'm going to be selling on my shop. I ended up sewing 3 different sizes, so this is the largest one. This will be called like a jumbo scrunchie or a large scrunchie, something along those lines. And then we have size medium, which is just a little bit smaller than that. And then we also have size small, which is the smallest scrunchie that I'll offer. And I did 3 sizes for every single fabric. However, I feel like once I get them on the shop, I'm only going to end up doing 2 sizes and people can choose between which one they like. I'm also so happy with how the little label turned out. I like that I put it closer into the scrunchie so that it's not so far poking out, but it gives it such a nice like branding to the scrunchie. And if people are interested in where they got that scrunchie from and they can't remember, there's a label right there, especially if they got it at a market. Maybe they didn't like specifically go out and look for a scrunchie, but they just happen to find it. So then they can look up my website and find more scrunchies on there. And this is how many different scrunchies I'm going to be offering. I may also add some more in the future, but I just did my best-selling prints and all my other products for now. And if you guys know a fabric on my shop that you really enjoy that you want to see in a scrunchie, please let me know. I can definitely add it to the shop. But I'm so excited to finally have like a scrunchie of my own. And by the time that this video comes out, they'll all be on my website, so you can shop at xoxocharlie.com, or I'll just have a couple tagged in this video that you can shop from. But I hope you guys enjoy seeing like the process behind the scenes of turning some of my scraps into potentially a bestseller and just a new product in general on my shop. It's always fun being able to experiment with fabrics and find new products and new things that I think you guys will enjoy. But I hope you all enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys in my next one. Mwah. Bye.